So, welcome. Today's video is all about Genestealer cults. Now, this is a video I've been really excited to do for some time now. It's how you beat Genestealer cults. Now, Genestealer cults is a radically different form of codex, and it's left people with a lot of questions about exactly how do you play against this army. Now, Genestealers, they can launch devastating attacks from reserves, and if you don't play against them properly, you can quickly be overwhelmed and the game can be over. So, in this video, I'm going to be talking to Alex Harrison. He is a former LVO winner and he placed second place this year. We're going to be talking about key units and key stratagems in the Genestealer cult book. We're going to be going over the psychic powers. In particular here, guys, there's some awesome little tricks about how you can negate some of these powers, and we're going to be going into depth and exactly how you do that. And of course, we're going to be going over general strategies and tactics for playing against the cult. Now, I'm going to be trying something a little bit different with this video in that I'm going to be posting up a tactics article, and it's been going over all the key points. Now, it's not a review, it's not going to be going over every single unit in the book, but it's going to be going over what me and Alex think are the key things you need to know about the cult, and of course the key strategies you need to use to play against them. So let me know what you think. I want it to be a living document. So if there's things which change or you guys have other ideas, please let me know. And let me know if you think it's a useful thing to have along with the video. And of course, guys, remember D6 Evolution, we do regular tactics videos. So please, if you like what you're seeing, subscribe and that will keep you up to date with our latest videos. So enjoy. So welcome, it's Andy here from D6 Evolution along with Alex.
Hello!
And it's time for Genestealer cults.
The one and only.
Yeah. So, if you've not seen one of these videos before, what we do basically is this is all about how to beat Genestealer cults. It's not a review. We're going to be going through some tactics and the best way to play against them.
Yeah, so we're going to go through the most important units, I think, in the book, that you'll be seeing in armies, probably on the tournament scene or playing your friends, etc. The ones that sort of stand out the most, and going through each one and the tactics and strategies and stratagems themselves that you'll probably see on the tabletop.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's really good. When I was actually just researching to this video, I've been finding that Genestealer cult's just not as scary as it first seems, is it?
Yeah, I picked them up and I picked the book up and thought, wow, there's lots of tricks and
they do have tricks.
Yeah, which we'll go over in a minute. But when playing with them, it was quite difficult to get everything into place, and they're quite a finesse army where the player using them is going to have to not make any mistakes. You know, there's a lot of things which could also go wrong, and you know, I think their strength on the table will be performed on the player ability and a bit of luck and their sort of target priority, and their lack of shooting will hurt as well, but we'll go over that in a minute. Yeah,
absolutely. So I think the first thing, should we quickly go through some of the basics on how the army functions for the guys out there? So I think the most iconic thing is probably their cult ambush, isn't it?
Yeah, so Cult Ambush is an ability which only Genestealer cults get. It's very unique, and I think most people playing against them will be kind of thrown off at first on what's going on. So we'll cover that. So basically, Cult Ambush allows pretty much every unit in this book to go in reserve, effectively, turn one. Up to half the army, as per chapter approved, can go in reserve to become one from turn two. And the other half can come on at the end of the first player's movement phase, I think.
Yeah, so it depends. If the Genestealer cult player goes first, you basically you deploy. The Genestealer cult deploys all of his blips as models at the start of his movement phase. Otherwise, if you go first, it happens at the end of your movement phase, and he just goes, surprise! Yeah. This is where everything is. But it has to deploy in his movement phase, in his deployment zone.
Yes, so there's no shenanigans to gain extra movement or things like that. It's just a case of putting all these blips down. You don't know what's what. You know, some could be characters, some could be big units, some could be small units. The idea is you don't know what is what or where it's going to be. So when your opponent is putting all these blips down, it's going to make you second guess where you put your stuff to maybe measure your things like Devastator squads to be in range and stuff. So it's something to be aware of.
Yeah, so not only has he got all these blips everywhere, but the blips can move,
Yep.
The blips can multiply with little stratagems. So I was thinking, what would you do against all of this? So you've got to deploy against.
Yeah, I mean, there's two different deployment types now. You can either deploy the old one drop, and then there's now the new where you deploy your whole army after the roll off to see who can choose a side, and then your opponent deploys the whole army. So depending on which one you're using will depend on how you deploy. And I think when you drop in one unit at a time, it's a bit easier because you can see where he's putting his blips. You go, okay, there's a few there. I'll start compacting my army on this side. But overall, I think you probably want your army in the centre rather than spreading out too much against them.
Yeah, so just deploy it a bit more conservatively. The other thing is, what I'd probably do is just look at their army and go, right, okay, he's got mortars. Where are they going to go? They're not going to go at the front. They're going to go at the back. They're probably going to go behind some line of sight blocking. You know, you kind of know where. Right, he's got some Genestealers. They're either going to be in reserve or they're going to be right at the front, or you know where stuff's going, don't you?
Yeah. So have a look at their list, and things like 10-man units of Brood Brothers or Neophytes, things like that. They're going to be the backfield scoring unit. So where your opponent's home objective is, he's most likely going to put that unit at 10 or mortars or sort of the backfield stuff on there. So you know that when he puts that blip down, it's probably not going to be important. Whereas the stuff at the front is going to be bigger squads, perhaps characters, things like that. So you might not know 100% what it's going to be, but at least you know roughly what it could be.
Yeah. There is one stratagem they have where they can put stuff from their blips into what we call their deep strike, which is their underground ability.
Yeah.
I think it's probably worth just touching on because we're pre the sort of, now it's April FAQ. It was going to be a March FAQ, wasn't it? But GW never put stuff out when they say.
No, because of American tournaments take precedence, of course.
So I think it's probably just worth touching on that because actually, rules as written, if you put stuff into reserve once the game has started, it can come back down turn 1.
Yeah, so the stratagem is, in your Genestealer cults, before the game starts, you can put 3 units into reserve after you've done all your deployment. So it doesn't count as being before the game starts. Yeah. Therefore, you can bring them on at the end of the round 1, effectively. Round 1, sorry, movement phase. Yeah. So at the moment this is happening.
We've both heard it from quite good sources that it's probably going to be going away.
Yeah, it's most likely going to be FAQ'd. I don't think it was GW's intention to do that. It was more of a, especially for 1 CP, it's too strong.
Especially when they've been trying to actually just get rid of it.
Yeah, so I think that's going to be, without confirming it because I don't work for GW, but very likely going to be getting rid of that. But check with, if you're at a tournament, check with the TO to see whether that is the case or not. Check with your opponent as well, how they play it. I mean, Raw is fine.
Yeah.
But Rye, we're not too sure. So double check. However, if that is the case, you're going to have to be aware of that because that is very big.
And by aware, I mean screen turn 1.
Yeah. For those who aren't sure what screening is, we'll go over it perhaps throughout the course of this book because against this book, it's more important than probably any book, I'd say.
Yeah. That's basically what we're just going to say is just screen.
Yeah.
But we will be talking a lot about it.
So when we refer to just screen, okay, not every person out there knows what a screen is. So what we mean by screen, it tends to be things like chaff units or even units that can't be assaulted like flyers should be in front of the main asset of your army. For example, a castellan, a gunline Tau army, tanks, that can be assaulted. You want to screen them off, and we'll be going over different various ways of doing that depending on the ranges you need to be aware of to push back your opponent's oncoming reserves.
Yeah. So so if they're not playing the new turn 1 rules, you don't need a screen turn 1, and it may actually be harmful to push your troops too far forwards because that basically lets your opponent just run up the board and charge at you.
Yeah, and it gives them shooting as well.
Yeah, and
targets.
So if you just hide your screen turn 1, but have it in a position where it can become a screen by the time you need it turn 2. So the guardsmen move up the board. They form a nice perimeter around your forces so that they can't just drop in behind you.
Yep. Or things like another a fast fly unit such as drones for Tau are very good at screening. And that's why I believe in when creating an army list, doesn't matter what army you use, even Space Marines, they need some form of like scouts and things like that. just to push forward eventually or straight away.
Space Marines have the answer. We'll cover this later, but
Yeah.
Space Marines really do have the answer to this.
They definitely do.
Make your Genestealer cult players cry. So let's talk about the units. What are the main things you need to be worried about?
So should we start with HQs?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's start with HQs. So first and foremost, Patriarchs.
Yeah, he has to be the Warlord.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
He's got lots of shenanigans. The main one being he gives all the Brood Brothers Fearless, which is amazing because you're going to see a lot of them.
Yep.
Sorry,
He's basically a combat monster, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's a combat monster because he looks like a combat monster, and everything is fearless within 6.
Yeah, so he's fast. He moves like 8 inches plus
Plus an advance.
plus an advance.
Yeah.
He can advance and charge. Like without stratagems, he can just do that. I think he has base 6 attacks, strength 6, and he's like minus 2 or 3 D3 damage. But on a 6 to wound, he causes a flat 3, which is really scary.
And he's a Psycho.
And he's a Psycho. He gets 1 power, and he can take a 12-point little character thing to give him a 2nd power once a game, which is really nice when he needs it. And we'll cover the powers in a bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the main one.
So I don't think there's much more to say about him. He does exactly what you expect him to do, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's a combat monster, little Psycho on the side, gives Brood Brothers combat. One thing to be aware of, there is a stratagem where if he is your Warlord, you can get another 2 Warlord traits just for 1 CP. And we'll go over Warlord traits later, but that's really good. And he can take all sorts of different Warlord traits. And it's always good to check with your opponent before the game starts. Obviously, when he goes over his Warlord traits, because there's so many good ones in this book, you want to know who has what, right?
Yeah.
So just ask him. Okay, simple question.
Okay. Should we cover what I consider probably the only anti-tank unit that these guys properly have for shooting phase? So the Jackals.
We'll go over the Should we go over the
Okay, I'm messing with your formula. Yeah, let's go over the rest of the
No, it's fine if you want to go over that.
Which one do you want to cover next?
The Primus. You're going to see a Primus in almost every list.
Yeah.
He gives everyone +1 to hit in combat within 6. And because it's a combat army, he's pretty good. He also, I think you pick a unit, I'm not sure, I think it's before the game starts, and he gives reroll to wounds against them, which is really strong. And he's really cheap, it's like 75 points base. And he can take, with that stratagem, he gets a free Warlord trait, and some of the Warlord traits are really good. So yeah, you'll see lots of those. Other HQs.
You got the Magus. Probably the only thing to say about the Magus is that you can, everything around it I think can deny the Witch.
Yeah, which is nice.
Anything, so all the units within
cult units.
All cult units can deny the Witch as if they're a Psycho, so that can actually really push their deny range quite far back.
Which can hurt some armies, like Eldar do not. Eldar do not like getting their powers stopped.
I played Eldar as an army for the first time the other day. I was like, this is great, why haven't I done this before? Then I fired every power in the turn. I was like, Eldar suck.
Yeah, they are reliant on powers, so any way to stop them, which we cover in the Ynnari video, any way to stop powers really hurts Eldar. So yeah. But Maguses, they bring a lot of utility to the army because they can cast 2 powers, and there's actually a relic they can take to get +1 to cast, which is really strong. I think it's called the Crouch Ring or something.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And I think, again, most armies will take that because it's just super strong, especially because their powers are just amazing. Yeah. I guess we may as well cover the powers because I've mentioned the Magus and he's the main one.
Yeah, okay, let's quickly... There's probably 3 or 4 powers which are worth talking about, isn't there? Should we talk about the Broker one first? Should we do the Broker one?
Go on.
Yeah. So, Mental Onslaught is just...
Dun, dun, dun.
This is the one that people are just losing their minds over.
Yeah.
You see what I did there?
Literally.
So, effectively what happens is that you take a mortal wound. It's basically a way of just stacking lots of mortal wounds. So you compare your leadership to...
your target's leadership.
Target leadership. And if you score over it, you roll a dice. Then you take a mortal wound and you just keep repeating it and repeating it.
Yeah, you both roll a dice and add your leadership.
Yeah.
So if, say, my leadership is 10 and his leadership is 8, we both roll off, and if I beat his leadership, then he takes more wound. However, there's ways and means of changing your leaderships. Yeah. So one way, for example, is one of the characters, Clamvus, gives everyone within 6 inches +1 leadership. There's the Warlord trait from the book gives another +1 leadership.
So you can see how it suddenly stacks up. So effectively what happens in the end is you need to roll they need to roll, the Genestealer cult player needs to roll a 1 and you roll a 5 or a 6 for the thing to actually fail.
Or if you can cast with allies a negative modifier to their leadership, such as the horror for Tyranids, or for guard it's mental visions or something. Something like that. I can't remember the name, but that's -2 leadership to your target. There are ways and means around this though. Some tournaments don't even allow modifiers for that power. I know the ETC have ruled to go against that. And there's also abilities which go under the radar for some armies, like commissars. You can use a commissar's leadership instead.
Because the way this works with using other models' leaderships is that effectively you modify the target's leadership with all your debuffs and stuff, and then that targeted model then just uses the commissar's leadership. And there's no debuffs to that.
No. Ethereals for Tau gives everyone you can use his leadership. However, actually I think that's just for morale, so it might not work, but I can't remember the wording off the top of my head. But yeah, just things like that affect other units' leadership can hurt the power as well. And as people are crying, saying, "Oh my god, this is really strong, this is overpowered," yes, you can one-shot Knight, but it's unlikely because you need to be in range. It's only 18-inch range. You need the stacking of the -2 leadership power, which is another power you need to cast. There's a lot of ifs and buts. If you have a deny, if you deny one of those powers, that helps, and you could fail the roll off. I did it in one of my test games. I kept
Knights get feel no pain as well.
You've
got a strat, 1 CP.
Then
they're definitely almost certainly not going to kill you at that point.
Exactly, and we all know leaving that Knight on 1 wound is basically the same as it being on 4 wounds. So
did that cost you recently? Did it play
recently? It might have done.
Yeah.
Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just one of them which I say it's a very strong power. Against some armies it doesn't affect them because it's just one model. It's good for sniping out characters if they're low leadership as well. But again,
it's one of their effective ways against flyers, isn't it? Flyers and tanks.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So that's probably the best power. The next one to talk about is mind control. Do you want to take us over that?
So mind control is only a 12-inch power, so don't expect it to be abused too much. However, if you do get it off, you basically roll 3d6, and if you beat your opponent's leadership, you can take control of that model and get to shoot or attack in combat. But this is where you've got to actually look at the wordings of these things. Is you take control of the model, it becomes one of the Genestealer cult's models for that particular action, and you shoot as in the shooting phase. So how can that be countered? You just put one model within an inch of the model you want to shoot. So a Knight is the biggest target of this power, or a tank, or
so you just
anything.
You just tow in one of your little Imperial Guard dudes just slightly behind it within an inch. So now, when the model gets taken over, now it's technically in combat because it's within an inch and it can't shoot.
You'll squish that model probably, especially if it's a Knight, or if it's a tank, you probably won't because you're hitting on 6s. So and there's no model I can think of in the game that can shoot out of combat when you take control of it without some form of stratagem or something. I mean, because it's an enemy model in combat within an inch, right?
It's just that really. It's a really powerful power if you don't know how to counter it. But once you know how to counter it, it's just a bit.
Even a flyer, you try and control a flyer, and your opponent's got a model within an inch of that flyer. You can't even shoot the flyer. You can't even attack in combat theoretically because you're a flyer.
You're just within an inch. You can't do anything.
So it's obviously this video is teaching you guys how to counter Genestealer cult. If your opponent says he's got mass hit mind control or something, again, if you've got any tanks or anything gribbly that he can control, just put one model next to it. You've got nothing to worry about. That's a massive counter to that awesome power.
Next one, let's talk about. You've got a power basically which buffs the units, haven't you? You get +1 attack, +1 strength.
Yes, really,
we're
really strong
gonna,
power.
We're going to talk about what that buffs later on, but effectively it's going to be things like acolytes, isn't it? Which are just really...
And aberrants, yeah. So
basically anything close combat.
The +1 strength, as we all know, is really strong, but the +1 attack is amazing, you know, especially on a big unit. That's obviously something which can be cast from afar, so, you know, they can stretch out a unit and cast it on that unit. Just expect it coming, you know, unless you have a way of denying that. There's no way of stopping it. It's just something to be aware of, where a combat unit is going to be stronger and do more damage. Don't just look at their stat line. Consider that power as well on top.
Yeah. I mean, the way I look at it is they're probably going to kill you anyway when you go in. It's just... It doesn't
It's
really
another way
matter
of
at that
killing
point.
you.
Yeah, if they connect, they're going to kill you anyway, so
Yeah.
don't worry about it. So let's get back talking about the unit. Should we talk about the jackals? Come on, let me talk about the
Go on,
jackals.
because you really want to talk about
I
this
do.
unit.
So they're these dirt cheap bikers, aren't they?
Yep.
And when you look at the data sheet, you're just like, you know, they're not that good. The -1 to hit, the bikers. But the key thing about these is that they can all take bits of, they call it Atalan equipment, don't they? And they can all take demolition charges.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know what demolition charge is, because you very rarely see them nowadays, it's a grenade, and it is...
It's a D6 grenade.
D6 shots.
D6 shots.
Strength 8.
-3 AP and D3 damage.
D3 damage. So it's actually better than a battle cannon. Battle cannon's only -2. These are -3. So they're one use only. So the models are 10 points each.
Yeah.
And then the grenade is how many points? 5?
God knows, yeah.
Yeah, it's about 5. So they're 15 points each. Not many points at all.
So the way this works, and the whole codex, well, there's a lot of stratagems in the codex which have been designed to link together, but effectively, for 1 CP, 5 models can fire a grenade.
Well, they can all use their grenade, but only the demolition charges
Up
up
to
to 5. Yeah.
So you're going to get 5 of these things thrown at you,
Yeah.
which is disgusting enough, but that's only where it starts, isn't it?
Yeah. So because the range is only 6 inches, there's another stratagem which is 2 CPs, and which is why this codex is very CP heavy. So you'll be seeing things like brigades and triple battalions and things like that. So for 2 CPs, a unit which is arriving from reserve can land within 3 inches of your army. Okay, and that's something now to be aware of. So when you do create a screen or things like that, and create a bubble around your main unit, be it you know, broadsides, you know, it tends to be the gunline armies that tend to want to sit back, things like aggressors, you know, all that stuff that you don't want to get hit by these things. You're going to have to make sure that you've got a 7-inch gap in between 2 units, because then physically those bikes can't fit. Okay, if they can fit, they're going to hurt.
Yeah, and this, it's basically it's their main anti-tank in the book. So they get a stratagem for +1 to hit and +1 to wound on top of this,
which is
It's
specific.
one CP for a. It's a 4-armed
bladed cog. I
bladed
think it's
cog. Yeah,
cog.
that's right.
I think it's cog. I think it's called. Yeah, so they have to be bladed cog. Can't even say it now.
Bladed clogs, yeah.
Yeah,
Dutch.
bladed clogs. So
scary Dutch people.
it tends to be either in a bladed cog detachment or a mixed detachment, because the other traits tend to be better for most of the rest of the army. However, this is specifically great for them.
Yeah.
+1 to hit and wound for that phase. Is really good, because you can also combine it with the Jackal Alphas, which is a HQ sniper guy, where if he looks at a unit within 36 and the bikers are within 12 of him, they get another +1 to hit. So their 4+ to hit becomes 3+ because of the stratagem, and 2+ to hit because of him.
Yeah.
So he can really hurt a unit.
And then +1 to wound because of the stratagem. So the other thing that they do is you can stack both the perfect ambush and the one where you just jump up 3 inches away. Can't you?
So you can. This is where CPs come in, because you can easily throw a lot of CPs on this unit, and I'm talking about a unit of probably 10.
Yeah.
So a unit of 10 drops in 150 points within 3 inches and goes 5 grenades over there with +1 to hit and wound, and then shoot as they appear. And then in the shooting phase, they do it again. 5 grenades, +1 to hit and wound. However, the +1 to hit and wound, something to be aware of, only applies to that phase, okay? Yeah. So because the stratagem to shoot when you appear happens in the movement phase, make sure your opponent doesn't try the old, I'm going to do it for this turn, and get +1 hit and wound for both attacks. Okay, they have to use that stratagem twice, which starts adding a lot of CP. So you've got 3 to shoot twice, 2 to appear within 3 inches, 1 to use the grenades.
Yeah.
So that's 3, 5, 6. I think you've got to use I think the grenade thing actually is for that phase as well, so they might need to use that again. So it's about 9 or 10 CPs.
But yeah, using the 3 CP one, they can shoot again. That's the main thing. And shooting in the movement phase is actually really, really powerful because it clears screens. So they drop in, they obliterate a part of the screen, and then everything else can move in where that screen is because it happens as you're dropping stuff in at the end of the phase.
Yeah.
That's really powerful. Shooting in the movement phase is incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
And in an army which relies on deep strike, it's just...
Yeah.
This is how they get in behind
Well,
the lines.
I think the bikes aren't there for clearing the screens. We'll go over another unit in a bit, which is there to do
absolutely.
that. But the bikes are going to be there to hit your big gribblies at the back, and again, this is where the wrap comes in. And it can be countered. It's why you need several layers, I think, against this army. But it's just something to be aware of where they can do a lot of damage if they get all the CPs off and the buffs, etc. But it is very CP heavy.
One thing I wanted to check, does the Jackal Outfus, the guy which buffs these guys, plus does that happen in the shooting phase or does it happen at the start
I
of
think
the turn?
that's in the shooting phase.
So
And
actually
it
they'd
would
only
only
be
work
hitting
on one of those attacks, not both.
So actually they'll be hitting on 3s if they do it in the movement phase then?
Yeah, so at the start of your shooting phase, select an enemy unit visible.
So they're shooting in the movement phase isn't as effective as they're shooting in the shooting phase, is it?
No.
So that's one thing to bear in mind if your opponent tries to be hitting on 2s.
Yeah, again, so they can only hit on 3s at best in the movement phase.
But still, that's going to be 5 grenades, 5 D6 grenades, each doing...
They get to shoot the frag grenades as well, which is another D6 strength 3 shots. It adds up, especially with +1 hit and wound.
Yeah, that's going to really hurt. So I think that's the main shooting thing in the book. They've got mortars, they've got other things which can clear screens, which is really cool. But we all know what those do. It's the main.
Yeah.
So what are the main close combat things? What do you?
Well, because we're going over shooting, I want to just go over a few other shooting that they do have access to.
Okay.
So they've got Brood Brothers. Okay, you're going to see units of between 10 to 20 Brood Brothers. These are basically guardsmen that can receive orders. Okay, through allies. So some armies might take an allied detachment of a couple of commanders in a supreme, or if they take a battalion, which they only get 3 CPs for, they can they're basically just trying to get commanders in, and those commanders can give the Brood Brothers infantry squads orders. So you can have units of 20 moving turn 1 or something, and then turn 2 onwards you're going to see first rank, second rank fire from 20 guardsmen. That's 80 shots within 12 inches.
Or they can deep strike in, I think.
Yeah, they can obviously use the cult ambush and appear within 9, and then again they can use the stratagem to shoot and then shoot again.
Yeah, so that's a way to just delete screens, isn't it? 3 units of those, disgusting.
It might only be strength 3 lasguns, but when you've got 80 shots, it's horrific.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'd say that would be the main other shooting element to the army, and of course mortars. They can take mortars, but they don't gain any like rerolls or anything.
They're just mortars.
Yeah, which we all know what they do. So just to be aware of.
Yeah. Go on. What do you want to cover next?
Kelemorph. He's a shooting.
Oh yes.
You like him? Go on, I'll let you run over Kelemorph.
But bear in mind, he's quite expensive. He's 60 points for all this complete bullshit.
Oh no, 60 points.
So he's basically Jesse James. He's a gunslinger.
Yep.
He's got a 12-inch range. That's probably the only thing which is going against him, and he's a sniper, which is just ridiculous. Now he gets
a pistol sniper. I love it.
Yeah. So he gets 3 pistols. Each one of them's 2 shots each, and it's a flat 2 damage minus 1 AP.
Strength 4.
Yeah. But essentially, what he gets is he gets 6 shots, and every time he hits, he gets another shot. But they don't stack further than that, so he can get up to 12 shots when he shoots.
Hits on 2s.
And it can snipe characters.
Yeah. So
that is a really, really strong ability right there.
He's good at not only sniping characters, but just killing infantry, you know.
You can make a relic gun to just make him a little bit more powerful as well, but essentially it still does the same thing. And you can do the perfect ambush and essentially shoot him twice, can't you?
Yeah, it's going to be difficult for people. I mean, if you can see what's coming, i.e. your opponent has a Kelemorph in reserve, just place your characters about 3 inches or 4 inches behind your front line so that you can't appear and then shoot him. But make sure your front line's durable, because again, they can clear them in the movement phase and then drop the Kelemorph on your character.
So he's quite a reliable way of just blitzing a small screen, isn't he?
Yeah, he can pop down and kill the screen himself, or he can, if your opponent's deployed him, he can just run up the board from turn 2 or 3 onwards. He can start shooting, averages about 9 to 10 hits. Strength 4 is not the best in the world, but the -1 flat 2 damage,
you would take that, hitting on 2s, it's so of course he's 60 points, which makes him ridiculous.
It's so expensive. Why would you take less than 2 of them?
I think the other one to be aware of is the Sanctus.
Yeah.
Sanctus he's really cool, and a shout out to Lewis, who lost his Demon Prince turn 1 to one of these in his tournament.
He told me earlier, I was like, that would never happen if I used the Sanctus, but it can happen. I'm sure you guys have better luck than me. I can't. I've not got. I mean, when I was testing stuff, I never bothered taking him because I thought he's too. He's got a chance to do something awesome like that. I just know it'll never happen when I play him.
So he's a sniper. His special ability is he can do the perfect ambush for free. So maybe he'll pop up and shoot twice. But the real spice to this guy is that he can, if he causes any wounds with his sniper rifle, it's amazing. He causes perils against psychers. So if you've got any of those crappy little psychers, the 2 wound ones, if you can cause something to peril, it explodes and it does D3 wounds to everything around it. So you just look at all those little Eldar 2 wound psychers as little bombs you can just ping off.
The warlocks, I mean, even things like, which is odd, is Grey Knights. You kill 1 Grey Knight, and then you just do D3 more wounds to the whole unit. You end up killing like 3 or 4 of them, and then you shoot again and do the same thing to like another squad, and you're like, I've just killed like 4 of them.
So against certain armies, I think you just have to be aware of him and just hide all your psychers outside of the perils explosion range.
Because on a 6 as well to wound, he does another more wound on top of the damage, which it's not amazing, but it just stacks up, doesn't it?
That's the 1 wound that he needs to make stuff explode.
Because most of those psychic characters, apart from like HQ ones, tend to be 4 wounds, maybe 5. Primaris Psychers are 4, Warlocks are 4. You've got on bikes, are 4.
But he can quite easily take out a character and just make everything explode. So it's. That's really cool, and if you run Psycho Heavy, you just need to know about him. If you don't, he's probably not going to be that big a deal for you.
He can do the perfect ambush turn 1 because he appears from the blip. He gets a free shot turn 1 and then shoots again. Because let's be honest, most people won't waste CPs doing it turn 1 just to pop up because you're not in range. Whereas because this is a character sniper, 36-inch range. So just bear that in mind if your opponent has a Sanctus. He's probably deployed him, ready to use that, so don't leave your characters.
Don't be within 36 inches of the deployment. just don't do it. Okay, so they're what I call the assassins. They're the really cool ones. Should we talk about the close combat stuff? And this is probably where the real crazy stuff of the list happens. This is what this list is all about. It's about deep striking in and charging you with some incredibly nasty stuff. Not durable, but when it connects, it's
a very glass hammer army. It hits like a truck in combat against pretty much everything. And if it gets in, it's gonna hurt. It's just if it doesn't get in combat, they're just toughness 3, 5+ save. They just fold.
So acolytes is probably something to quickly touch on. I mean, a lot of the units function in the same ways that they just get loads and loads of attacks, and they've got a few sort of choice weapons in there as well, haven't they?
So acolytes are the main troops for the codex, which you'll see in most competitive or even non-competitive lists. I think they're the sort of the staple unit. And what makes them so great is the sort of buffs that you can give these units, especially when they're in combat. You might look at them and go, they're all right, but it's things like the power to give them +1 strength and attack. They now have 3 attacks each. The ability to, through stratagems, to get things like +1 to wound, which we'll go over in the detachment phase in a bit. And the Primus buffing them to give them +1 to hit. So they hit on 2s in combat with the Primus. And with an icon, they reroll 1s. So it's just all these stacking abilities which makes them scary.
Yeah, and they can take rock swords, don't they?
Yeah, so I mean that's our assumption. I mean, I would take rock swords, and I think you're going to see rock swords in most units. However, not every Acolyte player is going to take them. But if we go over, what we'd expect to see is either units will be roughly between 10 and 20.
Yeah.
Okay. And 20 mans probably don't need anything. They on a 6 rend, so -4, so they can go in and just hurt with loads of attacks. Units between 10 and 15, I'd say, are quite a common occurrence to use rock swords, because I think the points of the unit starts to stack up if you have 20 plus rock swords, and I think you'll probably see anywhere between 4 and 6 rock swords. They can take 2 for every 5 in the model in the unit.
They're basically a power fist with no negatives to hit. To keep it simple, isn't it?
Well, I'd say they're more of a chain fist because they're -4, double strength, and flat 2 damage.
Okay, so they're nothing like a power fist, but they kind of do the same thing.
Yeah,
Apart from having none of the stats the same. Apart from that, they're a power fist.
Yeah, so they hurt, especially when you've buffed them to have +1 strength. You can easily make them like, I think it's like strength 12 or something. Yeah. So it's really easy to ruin most stuff on 3s or 2s, and with 3 attacks each with the power. And you have like 4 of them getting 12 attacks, reliably hitting. You know, it's all these buffs which makes them really scary.
They've got knives which are essentially chain swords as well.
Yeah, they all get an extra
attack.
3 strength, whatever, flat strength attack, which again is great. Rending claw, so they all have.
So basically, whatever they connect with, they're probably going to kill.
Yeah, they're such a good.
So the disadvantage of this unit is probably it's very, very weak. It can't take a punch back because they're toughness 3, 5-up save models.
Yeah.
How do you kill them? Ospec scan.
Yeah,
it's not a bad shout. You know, you'll probably be vected the first time, but
so there's lots of ways. I'd say lots of ways. A fair amount of ways to shoot them on arrival. You know, Eldar have access to it. Space Marines of pretty much all sorts have access to it, and I mean the new Chaos have a way of doing it as well, from the Vigilus, what's it called, Defiant or something. I think it's the Purge or something. They have an ability now which can shoot on arrival within 12.
Ooh, you're more up to date than me. I like it.
I've seen all the rules.
Ooh, check you out.
So yeah, there's more and more ways to shoot on arrival which hurts them.
Yeah.
And of course, armies which have a great Overwatch like Tau, they might not even make it into combat. But yeah.
Should we quickly? So they've got a couple. We didn't cover it at the time, but they've got a psychic power which can turn off Overwatch for a unit they're charging. It does some other ridiculous stuff like you turn off Overwatch, you fight last, and you're -1 to hit.
Yeah.
one power.
It's really, really good.
But that's only on one unit, so that actually doesn't affect the greater good in the way you think, because the greater good for Tau works that every unit in a Tau army overwatches like it's being charged itself. So that won't work against Tau. Whereas they've got a relic which that model can't be overwatched at all. So that would work against Tau.
So the one model you'll probably see it on is a Patriarch because he's really good in combat. So expect to potentially see that relic on him. Especially if you can choose the relic before each game. Most players will, especially playing against Tau, probably. I know I would. So that's something to be aware of. That he's quite high on the priority list to get rid of.
But yeah, just Overwatch in general is really going to hurt these guys because they're going to lose a lot.
Even
a lot.
With the new bolter rules, you're going to see lots of armies with bolters. So
yeah, they're going to
charge into even Deathwatch and they shoot 40 bolter shots. They, with rerolls to hit from them, even hitting on 6s, you're going to kill quite a lot of them. Because every wound is pretty much going to kill them. You get a 5+ save. So
I mean, if they do connect, they hit like they're going to delete something. But the other unit to talk about probably is Aberrants, isn't it?
Just going back to the Acolytes, actually, there's another way you might see them being used is what I call the Flamer Bomb.
Oh yeah.
So this tends to be quite a big unit, I'd say 15 to 20 man, and they can all take hand flamers. Now, 1 or 2 hand flamers might not seem scary, especially with a 6-inch range. But what they do is they put them in reserve, and they use them like we were discussing with the bikes. They'll use a perfect ambush to get within 3 inches of you, and then they'll double shoot them.
Yeah.
And that's where they get to shoot in the movement phase and clear that screen with auto-hitting flamers. They're only strength 3.
But there's so many, yeah.
But when there's 20 D6 shots,
yeah,
I mean, that's like, what, let's say 3 to 4 shots each. So that's about 70 strength 3 auto-hits. That's probably going to delete 20 guardsmen easily.
Yeah.
Or scouts or something like that. And then the rest of the army drops in closer, or they can just shoot again in the shooting phase and clear something else. So it's quite a scary unit, alright? And it's something to be aware of. If you do see your opponent having that unit, that's what they're going to do.
Just know what they're going to do with it,
yeah. Again, CP heavy, but it's worth it.
So let's talk about aberrants next.
Yeah. Probably the best unit in the book, I'd say. Especially in combat.
Yeah.
What do?
They pretty much do exactly what you expect a unit which carries signposts to do. Is they absolutely wreck face in combat, don't they?
Slap you around the head with a signpost. You know, what's more brutal than that?
So they're effectively just an infantry unit which doesn't fly, aren't they? Which can just destroy anything and can fight twice. I think that's the other thing to say, isn't it?
Yeah, so the traits in this book we haven't gone over, but the aberrants and probably the acolytes are all going to be base +1 strength through Twisted Helix. And this really makes aberrants really strong because they're base strength 5 and they have 2 attacks each. And their base weapons, the cheap ones, which I think you'll see most often, are power picks. And they are -2, I think they're 2. I'll double check, but they do D3 damage.
Yeah.
And there's obviously ways to buff them even more. There's a relic in here, which gives an acolyte icon ward, which every army will have, to give them an extra strength. And then the power, which we mentioned earlier, which gives them another strength. So they could be base strength 8. Wow.
Yeah, so it's pretty crazy stuff. The downside of these guys is that they're not as durable. I thought they'd have an invuln. I genuinely did, but they're only 5-up save. The way they get durable though is that they half the damage done to them, but that doesn't really do anything if you shoot them with like a 1 damage pressure channel.
I really like them. Yeah. However, I think people are overreacting. You know, I've seen people take 2 units of 10. I've seen people, you know, really raving about them. From using them and playing against them, I mean, you look at them with bolters and they fall to the floor. Yeah. There is a stratagem to give them a 4+ Feel No Pain because they come with a 5+. Yeah. And you can reroll 1s because of the icon ward if they're within 6. However, you know, it's just a number of shots, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They're just... I mean, the other thing is they're slow. Once they come down, if they've not charged something, they're actually quite slow, aren't they? They're slow. They haven't got fly, so you can always stand stuck in front of them if you're really stuck. They're not going to do that much if you can get away from them.
Yeah, they're the hard hitters. So you know, I mentioned the power picks. They're -2, by the way. They get with the power. They can have 2 to 3 attacks each. So a unit of 10 will have 8 of them. So that's 16 to 24 attacks. And they can also attack with the Rending Claw on top of that for 1 extra attack each. And then the biggest thing really is 2 of them become hypermorphs, and they're the sergeants. You can have 1 in every 5. 1 in every 5 can become a hypermorph. And what the hypermorph gets is an option to take, which they should do, and I wouldn't expect any not to, is the heavy improvised weapon, also known as the stop sign.
Yeah.
And this thing is awesome. So they get to make 2 hit rolls for each attack with that weapon. So the hypermorphs get 3 base, and with the power they get 4. Times that by 2, that's 8 attacks each, that's 16 attacks. And what does it do? It's double your strength, -1, 2 damage. It's amazing.
I mean, whatever they touch, they're probably going to kill, aren't they?
Yeah.
But it's a question of, can you stop that unit from getting in?
Yeah. Because of Twisted Helix, which they're most likely going to be, they're going to double attack.
Yeah.
Or they have the option to double attack. they're going to drop down, get a free d6 movement for another 3 CPs, and charge with a reroll because of another buff character. You know, there's all these buff characters which just give them the capability of killing 2 knights in combat, which is crazy. So don't leave your big units together so that they can consolidate.
Yeah.
And just don't, you know, again, it comes down to wrapping, stopping them getting close to your really big units is really important.
Yeah. So I think it's probably a nice point to talk about the fact that Genestealer Cult, they get a lot of things which increase their potential charge range, don't they? So when we're talking about these units, so you've got the, is it Clamavus?
Clamavus, yeah.
Clamavus. You're just on the right page.
Yeah. I knew it was coming.
So you've got a cult which does it, and you've got the Clamavus which does it, and you've probably got something else. I think they can get +2 or even +3 to their charge range.
I think 2 is the max.
Yeah.
Maybe 3, I'm not sure. But there's a 4-armed Emperor, which is one of their cult abilities, which is like a chapter tactic. Give them the +1 advance and charge. Or might just be charge, I'm not too sure.
Yes, it's advance and charge.
Okay,
and I think this Clamavus...
And this Clamavus, every unit within 6 gets +1 to advance and charge.
Yeah,
so again, here's another buff character which needs to be close to really, you know, utilise. And sometimes you're not going to get him in range. You know, you've got to throw this character which only moves 6 inches.
Yeah.
Or potentially you need to drop him as well. Bear in mind, your opponent can only drop 50% of their points in the sky.
Yeah.
So that's another thing which, you know, you need to be aware of.
Yeah.
And we'll go over the detachments in a minute, which can give them things like reroll charges. Yeah. So the chances of them getting into combat are quite high.
Yeah.
You know. But again, you need to kind of be aware of them.
So they get to get into combat, but you get to choose what they get into combat with. I think that's probably the best way of thinking about this book, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, should we quickly go over what do you want to do next?
So, we've covered the big combat threats, we've covered the shooting.
I think we've covered the units as such.
Yeah.
I think the next thing, should we have a quick chat about some stratagems? Obviously, we've talked about the stratagems as we go along. There's a few ones which you're probably going to see.
Yep.
So, you've got the one I think is probably relevant, which will come up sometimes, though I don't think you particularly rate it, is Lurking in the Shadows.
Mm-hmm.
So, effectively, what that does is gets a unit becomes untargetable, doesn't it?
Yeah, so if a unit's in cover, they become untargetable for 2 CPs. The issue I personally have, that I don't think you'll see it that often, is 2 CPs is quite a lot for this army, because you're using so many CPs for all your big combat units and your flamer bombs and things like that, your jackals, your characters. I don't think you're going to see it that often. However, it's just something to be aware of where you know, you could make a unit in cover untargetable.
Yeah, so they have to be wholly within cover. But the other thing is they have to call it the start of the shooting phase.
Yeah.
So you have to preempt you. They can't just go, suddenly you're not targetable.
Yeah.
They have to say at the start of the shooting phase, I think you're going to target that.
So it's good for like aberrants, for example, which are left out in the open or in this case in cover.
Yeah.
Where you don't want them to die. You can use that. But again, it's like more CPs which you don't want to use there, so it's just something to be aware of.
So I think that's probably the main one. We've talked about perfect ambush, we've talked about the one where you jump up 3 away.
There's actually, sorry, just before I forget, there's quite an interesting one. For 1 CP you can put a unit back in reserve, which I think tactically is amazing, and that's where you will struggle to stop some combat units, like aberrants, because you can keep an aberrant unit in reserve until turn 5.
Yeah,
or turn 6.
That's when you probably stop screening, and that's probably when you're going to be caught off guard.
So that's something to be aware of. That even if your opponent plays cagey and brings up a unit of aberrants behind a wall on turn 3, just be aware that you can put them back in reserve, ready for turn 5 to come back on. Just something to be aware of.
They can't come back down the same turn otherwise, because that would be dumb.
Yeah.
So let's have a quick talk about the general ways that you play against them, because I think this is that in a way they're quite a predictable army, aren't they?
Yeah. So that before we go on to that, let's go over how you can see how they're going to play with allies.
Okay.
Yeah? So the allies that you'll see, there's only 2 that they have mainly access to. Is going to be Tyranids and Guard. And these 2 effectively give them different things, but fundamentally they're both there to clear screens. Okay, so the Guard will either bring commanders to give them, like I said earlier, the Brood Brothers
First rank, second rank.
First rank, second rank, or move, move, move. You know, all the good, really good abilities that guard have can be brought to Genestealer cults to push like 80 guardsmen forward in your face or shoot them all. You know, it gives them a lot of tactical flexibility. You might see them bring things like tank commanders or vultures with punishers just to clear screens. Again, I can't tell you what they could bring, but have a look at the list and then you can see what they're there for. And then Tyranids. Do you want to go over Tyranids?
So Tyranids, you're probably going to see Kraken Genestealers.
Yep.
Which basically, forget where they are on the board. They're going to just be in your face turn one.
They move fast, especially with a swarm or double moving a unit.
So that way, they're basically going to charge you turn one. They're going to eat your screen, and then they're going to drop everything else in turn two.
Yep.
So that's the way around it. You could potentially see Hive Guard. There's heavy hittings.
Yeah. I mean, there's.
I mean, we don't want to do a Tyrannus effectively.
Yeah.
Hive Guard, they're quite predictable. They're going to find a big wall to hide behind, and they're going to have a 36-inch range. So from deployment, you know where they're going to be. Just don't go within 36 of the wall they're hiding behind.
Yeah. Just make sure you again have a look at the list and go, right, I can see what this is trying to do.
Yeah.
And just have a think and be aware of that. Don't forget, you know. The first time I played Genestealers, I had no idea what they could do, but just be aware that Genestealers move really fast. I'm talking like 30 inches or something crazy with stratagems and buffs and things like that, and they'll just clear your screen. So just be aware of that they are actually a bigger threat than they look.
Yeah.
The
other thing you probably see going back to the guard is vulture gunships is another popular choice at the moment. Just again a nice fast moving way, a way to actually go a bit further back and clear some of your backfield maybe to punch holes in different points.
Yeah, lots of shots, 40 shots each, strength 5. They clear screens like nothing. So make sure you're in cover. Okay, they're not any minuses. They don't ignore cover. So make sure your units are in cover. Utilize terrain well. That'll be the best thing to do against them.
Yeah, so let's talk some general tactics on how to do it, how to beat Genestealer cult, because I think it's quite a predictable army. It's a deep striking assault army, isn't it? And that's what it is. So I think from deployment, assuming they can't do the turn one, if they can do a turn one charge, this all depends on the FAQ. Then you set up your screen out. Otherwise, you set your screen quite far back, don't you?
Yeah, so I wouldn't consider throwing your screen too early because your opponent's going to have things like first rank, second rank infantry squads, mortars, things like that. You don't want to just throw everything forward and go, right, now I'm just going to lose a load turn one, because you don't need them turn one. Put them in position, ready to move for turn two, or hide them. Don't give them just don't throw them forward turn one. Move them forward if you need to. Just don't give your opponent that chance to move forward and rapid fire them, because you will lose them, and you don't want that to happen turn one.
Yeah. So the other thing I think about is actually in terms of screening, these guys, they only usually drop in 9 inches away. They can move after they drop in, but effectively they're a 9-inch army dropping in. So you can basically screen out your entire backfield and they can't get in.
And only one unit can do that D6 movement, not all of them. So if he does have a lot in reserve...
But he has to start 9 away. So if you screen out everything, they can't get in the back. They have to come at the front.
Yeah.
And at the front, think about what they're going to do. They're going to try and pin something in combat and trap it. Now, guys, we've got an awesome video on how you do this if you don't quite get what we're doing. But effectively, you put a model on 3 sides of a lone guardsman, and it can't fall back in its own turn. So effectively, the unit which has trapped it can't be shot. Genestealer cult love doing this. So when you're looking at this, give them stuff they can't interact with. So
units with fly. Just consider. I mean, unfortunately, it comes down to your army build, because some people will develop a gunline army with no combat. And Tau is a prime example. That's why they're very castle orientated. But if you don't have combat in your army, consider it, because you need something to clear their. If they charge you and can't get shot at, and you've got no way of clearing them in combat, you're going to struggle, because next turn they're going to leave combat after clearing that unit, which they will clear, and then move forward,
do the same,
the same again. So
stuff with fly gets around this site, swooping hawks, anything. Tau drones, awesome.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah.
Your own flyers, you don't have to have like what I used at the LVO, 7 flyers. Even having 2 or 3.
They literally can't interact at all. So if you have your units at the back, the screened up board, flyers along the front, then they can't, because the only way they can get in is by assaulting, and you can't physically assault flyers.
No.
And then second best is units with flies, so they can't be pinned. Third best, guys, if you're going to get pinned and have attacked somewhere else, pile in with your entire unit, combat interrupt, base to base everything, so they're forced to actually kill the unit.
Yeah.
Because usually what they'll do is just put one model in, attack with that one model, then pile around. But if you pile in, base to base everything, they have to attack with the entire unit, and then they can't pin you because the unit's dead.
So you use the 2 CP strat to move your unit, like, because what he'll do is he'll consolidate, but he doesn't get to pile in until the end. Then you get to
the other way around. So basically, he puts one model within an inch, everything 2 inches away from that guy.
Yeah.
So he attacks with one model, and then he traps you. But the way to get around it is combat interrupt, pile everything in, so he has to attack with every model.
Yeah. And also when you do pile in, you can effectively stop yourself getting wrapped anyway.
Yeah.
And then obviously if he does have to attack, then great. You just remove that.
Yeah.
oh dear, I lost that chaff unit. Now I get to shoot you. So yeah.
So going back to what Alex was saying before, you need a counter assault unit. You need some way, if you do get pinned, to counter assault. So if you've got a big unit of Terminators or something, don't put them in the sky. You're gonna get assaulted. You don't need to have that range. You just need to stand behind your screen and go, when you hit me,
I'm gonna hit you.
I'm gonna hit you back, and I'm gonna kill everything.
Yeah.
And that's what you need to have. You need to have. You know what they're gonna do. They're gonna assault you. There's no surprises here. Just be ready. Just have that second wave ready to come in.
Even if it's characters or when you develop your list, just consider that Colt is here. You do need combat. That's why I struggle with Tau sometimes, because if you make one small mistake, you lose the game due to pile-ins and things like that.
Yeah.
There's so many units these days that can get into combat really quick and double attack to get around your bubble wrap. So that's why I believe that an army can only be good at a tournament with some form of counter assault punch.
Yeah.
And I say that, either that or some way of just blocking completely. Like my flyer list, for example, didn't have any combat, but that's because I had flyers, right?
Yeah. Whereas
Whereas not every army has that luxury. So if you're creating some kind of soup list, make sure you do have a combat unit punch. That's why you see guard armies with Bullgrins, for example.
Yeah.
Because they're really good, lots of attacks, decent strength, etc., just to put a number of wounds on and can clear. These guys are weak in combat when you hit them.
Yeah.
They rely on killing you before they get hit. So don't be scared of even charging a knight into combat with lots of attacks. Just clear them all.
Yeah. The next thing to say is expect your front screen to die. It will die, but you've got to think about the game in turns. Literally go, turn 1, my screen is going to be these units. Turn 2, my screen is going to be the next units, and have them ready to move up.
You need screens until turn 3.
And just literally have it, so don't spread out your army far enough apart, like really push up the board so that if they kill a unit in the middle, you've got no way of getting back and rescreening off that area. You want to have redundancies, stuff ready to fill in that squad. So turn 1, turn 2, your screen's going to be this. Turn 3, I've got my next load of screen ready to move forwards, and just keep doing that.
Yeah.
And after turn 3, like Alex said, at most you're going to be dealing with one unit.
One example I did when I played my Tau is turn 1. I was playing a Deathwatch player who was deep striking, or obviously half his army. And
surprise.
Yeah. So turn 1, I just positioned my Fire Warriors in a position ready to move forward. Turn 2. So on turn 2, they moved out, and it forced my opponent just to drop 1 unit to clear that screen, which he did. With the rest of his army shooting as well. And then turn 3, I then moved my shield drones over, advanced them, and then now I've got my second screen. So always have something else ready to move forward. And I think I even moved a Riptide forward, sacrificed it, because it meant that my gun line wasn't getting hit by all his stuff. And he shot, charged, etc., killed most of my stuff. But then my return fire cleared his army.
Yeah, so they're going to hurt when they come in, but they're just going to die. If you can survive their drop, they've got nothing. Okay, buddy, one last question for you guys. If you're an Imperium player, what assassin would you bring? Go.
Calexus.
Why?
Because of these powers. I mean, if I'm an Imperium player, I'm going to have more than one. I don't know. No, to be honest, I'd say every assassin is good against this army.
Because I mean, you can have the Calendars to drain the command.
Actually, I'd take that back. I'd probably actually have a Vindicator.
Yeah. Yeah, Vindicator is good. They have got a 4+ they can give wounds out to chaff, but...
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. We didn't even mention it. Yeah, so
That's the thing.
That's the thing. So all the characters in this have an ability to move wounds on.
And you see, we've rewarded the viewers for sticking with us this far.
Yeah, because even I
there's guys who went earlier on in it. Shh, they don't know this.
No. So characters can pass on wounds on a 4+. Yeah, okay, maybe Vindicators aren't as reliable. You were going to say Eversoul, weren't you?
Eversoul's very good at because it's going to basically...
It's that counter punch.
Those acolytes, it's going to tear them apart.
Yeah.
I think the Calexis is actually a liability, personally, because he is basically an unlimited source of hugging him because they won't kill him. Hitting on 6s, if they get in, they'll just...
Yeah, obviously if you get in combat, then yeah. But what I found, so when I was playtesting this army and I told my opponent to take a Calexis, do you know why? Because his Calexis was sniping characters with that stupid gun.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah.
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 And
D6
it was causing too many wounds for me to obviously pass on, and I left the character out of range to pass on stuff. He was killing like the Patriarchs, the Magus, things like that. I was like, Jesus, this is annoying. And hitting him on 6s, he was just like holding up my units because he charged me, so I couldn't leave combat and charge. Things like that where he's really annoying. At least for me when I was playing against him. Maybe I was just unlucky. But yeah, just I guess Imperial players are gonna have a field day and choice.
Yeah. I love assassins. Anyway, guys, I think that's about it, isn't it? Is there anything else you want to say? Any final thoughts?
One final thing: Vigilus detachments. Okay, Vigilus detachments do. There's 2 detachments to be aware of. One is the Anointed Throng, which basically makes aberrants even better. They get to attack when they die. And I think they get an extra hit on a 6. Yeah. Extra attack on a 6th hit if they're within range of an aberrant. So basically, aberrants are really good in that. And the other one is, oh god, I can't remember what it's called. Brood Coven or something, Blood Coven, something Coven. Basically, they got a relic which gives every unit within 6+1 leadership, which helps mental onslaught. Nice. And a character within, I think it's 3 inches, it might be 6, gives that character +2, it might actually be model, not character, +2 strength and +2 attacks, which is awesome.
I think it's good, but I don't think any of those are game changing.
No.
Maybe the aberrants attacking when they die is going to be a bit annoying.
The main thing though is the Warlord trait and the stratagem. So the Warlord trait gives reroll charges within 6. Yeah. That is really strong.
Yeah. No, again, that is a game changing. Everything else just makes them slightly more killy, doesn't it? But that is.
They need that.
They need reliable charges.
So that's why I'm surprised when I see Anointed Throng aberrants. I'd rather see this one because the reroll charges. And you can counteract them losing attacks when dying by a stratagem for +1 to wound in combat, which is really good because they could be strength 8. They could wound knights on 3s, which is horrible, and pretty much everything else on 2s. Yeah. So that makes acolytes even stronger as well. Yeah. So yeah, I think those things are just something to be aware of. And makes the book even stronger. Yeah, it's great. I think we're just about out of time on this, so let's just wrap up. So, guys, let us know what you think of the video. Let us know if you like this format or how to beat things. There is show notes to this. We're making a little play sheet on how you beat Genestealer cults, and it should be in the show notes below. Let me know what you think. It's going to be a living document as things get updated, so I want your feedback on it. It's the first time I've tried this, so let me know what you think. And take care. And if you've not seen the Ynnari video that me and Alex have done, I'd suggest you give that a watch because that was really cool, wasn't it? Yeah, Some really good tips. Everyone's using Ynnari, right? So, so right. It's good to know what they do. Take care, guys. See you later, guys.